think we also underappreciate what the government has been able to achieve too in this tough situation of a low-income economy, right? We are delivering water in the city of ours to about 1.05 million connections. And broadly, those who are connected to the Kaveri water do not have a major problem with the water supply. Plus, the city also takes care a lot with its wastewater treatment plants. We now have treatment plants much in excess of the wastewater being generated. We are yet to start to invest in the sewage network to get all the sewage to the wastewater treatment plant. We have the world's second largest transfer of treated wastewater to fill the lakes of Kolar, Chikballapur, Anikal, and so on and so forth, next only to that of Mexico City, which is ensuring livelihood security to farmers, which is ensuring food security to the city, and which is making sure that the wastewater is disposed of in a more eco-friendly manner. And it's an experiment in progress and it's going ahead, right? So we have also to sit back and appreciate what tough work it is to manage a city which is growing so rapidly at 45% decadally. Yeah. That's an appreciation that we don't have, and we don't therefore give due credit to the institutions and the politicians also, and we just sort of badmouth them, saying as though they're incompetent nincompoops, which is not so, right? They have their own constraints and they're working within that tough constraints, and we have to appreciate that. There are failures, of course, and there are partly things which don't work. So that's one of the things. But the second political point that I wanted to make about water is not in the tinkering of the prices and all so forth. Water is a human right. Water is also an economic good. The big difficulty globally is, where do you capture the human right component of it? How do you make sure that everybody has universal access to water and sanitation as a human right, which is their genuine right, and compare it then next to the economic good as to when do we start pricing, how do we start pricing? No country has got it right. No, bar none. Nobody has got it right. So I can talk about Flint, Michigan as to what the collapse is, or you can talk about the New York system, which was rampant buying up of Catskill Mountains and then moving farmers out. So there are a huge amount of problems in these situations politically when water is being managed, even in the states or any other place. However, for me, the cause of concern is, how do we build the right institutions? Nobody is looking at the BWSSB, which is doing a job. How do we understand what their constraints are, and how do we make sure that that institution is capable, both in terms of human resources and financially, to be able to deliver water for a very rapidly growing city, right? So this kind of an analysis has to come from political parties. Unfortunately, it's not coming. So we have to now talk about not just simply blaming the system, but saying, how can we align the political establishment with what is the requirement for infrastructure and for the low-income cities? So what does that conversation look like? I have talked to politicians in many parties. I've also written the manifesto at one point of time, co-written the manifesto for the Aam Aadmi Party when it was contesting the Delhi elections. And this was the key issue that had come up there in Delhi. What is the amount of water that we promise to citizens, which is free, but beyond that, what should we charge for? The then number was 7,500 liters as a human right, but beyond 7,500 liters, it should be charged. However, the politics of it all took over, and then it became 20,000 liters free, right? And then this has become what has been catching the attention of the people, because people vote for these kind of incidences, these kind of promises. And when people vote like that, you can't expect a politician or a political party to go any other way, right? So how do we then therefore build the right narratives of fiscal responsibility and economic responsibility, at the same time being aware that a lot of the population is poor? I think those debates will occur over time. Good that Srikant is part of this debate, but even in the Navnirman Party and in other parties, there still needs to be a bit more of a complex understanding of the complexity of water and how we manage it. The one thing that many political parties should focus on is, how do we manage all the waters in one form? Why shouldn't groundwater, surface water, pipe water, water from the river, and wastewater not be thought of together? And can we create institutional responsibilities for all these forms of water with one institution, build their capabilities, and then hold them accountable? Right? The last point that I want to make, Hari, is, let's not delude ourselves that we can divorce from the Kaveri. We only take 6.67% of Karnataka's allocation of Kaveri waters, just Karnataka's allocation. We support 50% of Karnataka's population in the Kaveri River basin with 6.67%. We then transform the water into treated wastewater and ship it off to Kolar and Chikballapur to use. We're just a pass-through for the city. Plus, we generate 65% of the GDP of the state with that 1,450 million liters of water. So Bangalore need not feel at all any sense of doing somebody wrong by taking this water from the Kaveri. Bangalore has every right to draw this water because it's part of the river basin, and it's the slum dwellers of Bangalore who are getting the water. So let's not get into that kind of a mistaken argument about only local water. And with local waters, we've also written in policies and bylaws whereby rainwater harvesting is mandatory, wastewater recycling is mandatory, putting in place water efficient fixtures is mandatory, metering is mandatory, and even overflow from tanks has to be avoided by mandates. These are already law. Politicians have passed it. The bureaucracy has passed it. The citizenry, the middle class citizenry of Bangalore fails to respond to these policies and does not follow the law. People are willing to pay a fine but not follow the law. How do we persuade citizens to become responsible? It's also part of the political deal.